At the very bottom of Africa lies one of the most dangerous seas on Earth. For centuries, sailors have tried to avoid passing through this area. It's so deadly that it's known as the graveyard of ships. Even today, people claim they can still spot shipwrecks resting in these waters. One of the most famous legends linked to this place is the story of the Flying Dutchman. This ship disappeared in the 17th century, yet many claim they've seen it here even now. But if we set myths aside and look at things logically, you'll still find thousands of sunken ships in this region. This place is called the Cape of Good Hope. At first glance, it looks absolutely stunning. But for ships, it's nothing short of a death trap. Even in today's era of GPS, satellites, and massive container ships, many vessels still avoid sailing beneath Africa. So why is this route so dangerous? Let's break it down in today's video. But before we begin, quick request: hit that subscribe button. These videos take serious research, time, and money, and your support is our biggest motivation. Despite its name, the Cape of Good Hope was terrifying for the first explorers who reached it. After hearing frightening stories, European sailors decided to test their luck in the 15th century. In 1488, Portuguese sailor Bartolomeu Dias became the first to attempt the crossing, and what he experienced was brutal. Violent winds threw his ship around like a toy, and it came dangerously close to sinking. Somehow, he barely escaped alive, becoming the first European to pass beneath Africa. Because of the weather he faced, he named the place the Cape of Storms. But back in Portugal, the king saw it differently. To him, this wasn't danger, it was opportunity. He renamed it the Cape of Good Hope because this route led to India, the land of spices and riches. Soon, the area became a gateway for empires. After the Portuguese came the Dutch, then the British. Ships didn't just carry spices and silk, they hauled gold, slaves, and ivory. Every voyage meant profit, but also the risk of death. So many ships vanished here that people started believing something supernatural was going on. That's where the legend of the Flying Dutchman really took off. According to the story, a Dutch captain in the 1600s swore he'd cross these waters no matter what. His ship was lost, and people say his ghost still wanders the sea. Because of these fears, ships began avoiding the route. Then in the 19th century, everything changed with an engineering miracle. In 1869, the Suez Canal opened, connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea through Egypt. For global trade, this was a total game changer. Ships no longer had to travel thousands of extra miles around Africa. The journey between Europe and Asia became about 7,000 kilometers shorter. Today, roughly 12% of global trade passes through the Suez Canal. Oil from the Middle East, goods from China, and grain from Europe. In 2021, when the ship Ever Given got stuck, the world realized just how critical the canal really is. In just a few days, the global economy lost billions of dollars. But here's the problem. If the Suez Canal shuts down because of war, politics, or an accident, ships are forced to take the Cape of Good Hope route again. And that's exactly what's been happening recently, especially since attacks on container ships in the Red Sea by Yemeni Houthis. So what makes this route so dangerous? The answer lies in geography. The Cape of Good Hope is where the Atlantic Ocean and Indian Ocean collide. When two massive oceans meet, they create powerful, unpredictable waves that constantly change direction, making navigation extremely risky. Now add another factor, the roaring forties. These are insanely powerful winds that circle the Earth around the 40 latitude. They generate monster waves, sometimes as tall as buildings. During winter, 10 to 15-meter waves are common. Ships get tossed around like toys, and storms can appear out of nowhere. Even modern steel ships with advanced radar struggle against these forces, and it's not just the waves. The coastline is rough and rocky, with no safe harbors. Back when ships relied on wind alone, sailing here was nearly impossible. One small mistake meant crashing into rocks and getting torn apart. That's why hundreds of wrecks still lie here today. But the dangers don't stop at the Cape. Along Africa's west coast lies Namibia's Skeleton Coast, and the name says it all. Fog, storms, and brutal waves have destroyed countless ships here. During World War II, a British ship called Dunedin wrecked here, leaving survivors stranded in the desert. Further along, ships turning east must pass through the Mozambique Channel between Madagascar and Africa. This area is notorious for violent storms and extreme winds that can fling ships around like paper. And even if a captain survives all of that, another nightmare awaits pirates. In the early 2000s, waters near Somalia became the most dangerous place at sea. Pirates in small boats, armed with rifles and rocket launchers, hijacked massive tankers and demanded millions in ransom. In 2011 alone, piracy cost the global economy billions of dollars. Eventually, NATO, the EU, the US, and India stepped in with naval patrols, and piracy decreased, but the fear still remains. Meanwhile, on the west side, Nigeria's Gulf of Guinea has become the world's piracy hotspot. Here, the threat isn't just robbery, it's kidnapping. In 2020, 130 out of 135 global maritime kidnappings happened in this region. Even in 2024, dozens of crew members were kidnapped or taken hostage, with massive ransoms demanded. That's why the entire sea route around Africa remains extremely dangerous. First, the brutal waters of the Cape of Good Hope, then the Skeleton Coast, the Mozambique Channel, and finally, pirates. There's also a major political angle. These waters aren't just important for trade, they're critical military and strategic zones. In the Red Sea, north of the Cape, Houthi attacks on ships since late 2023 have targeted over 90 vessels, damaging many and sinking some. As a result, traffic through the Suez Canal dropped by 50% in early 2024. Ships were forced back to the African route, making it crucial once again for global trade. That's why major powers like the US, China, and Europe constantly patrol the area. Djibouti, near the Horn of Africa, has become a global military hub with multiple foreign bases, including one from China. The fight to control these seas is still ongoing, just like it was centuries ago during the time of Bartholomew Dias and Vasco da Gama. The route under Africa is essential but deadly. It carries the world's oil, gas, and cargo between continents, yet it's packed with danger. That's why, even today, captains prefer the Suez Canal. Sure, there's traffic, but it's still safer than risking the Cape of Good Hope. So ships don't choose the Suez Canal just because it's shorter, but because it lets them avoid one of the deadliest sea routes on the planet. See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Take care.